So before we get started, though, I wanted to just ask you how many people here in the audience are familiar with our BioPreferred program? Could you just raise your hands? Oh, wow. That is wonderful. What about our other programs within rural development? Are you familiar with that? Okay, good deal. So not as many. So what we hope to do is have a little bit of a dialogue, understand more of your questions, and then at this level, our team here will talk more high level, and then some of the questions that we hope to have generated in this discussion, then our next panel group will come up and they will be able to provide more detail. So to get started, can you see everybody sitting down? I know those of you in the back, is it okay? Can you see us? You'll definitely be able to hear us, I guess, with the microphones. But I'm going to turn it over to Mark and let him talk a little bit more about some of our programs and how they may be beneficial and work in collaboration with the bio-based economy.
Thanks, Betty. And I'll maybe start with reiterating that we're hoping this is a conversation. So we're going to take a couple of minutes to kind of give some highlights, maybe to hopefully to spur some thought. We do have a follow-up panel of some of our team members that'll speak to a little bit more detail to the programs. But we're hoping to have a conversation with you at this point, talk a little bit higher level, maybe on sense of mission, kind of where we're going, what could be helpful to help pursue your interest in your endeavors forward. But I thought I'd start with reiterating maybe a few points that Betty made as to kind of who we are and why we do what we do. Again, within Rural Business Cooperative Service, our mission really is to support economic development in rural communities. And that's a very broad mission. We are part of USDA, but it doesn't mean that we always support ag. It's really any economic activities within rural communities going to fall within our mission area. But anything that is related to ag, we know it almost has maybe a double impact or even more so. In the more we can support ag and agribusinesses, definitely high priority for our activities forward. Betty mentioned that we have, and I think we lose count, maybe 16 some odd programs within our agency. And when we're counting programs, generally we're counting activities that provide funding. So a majority of our activity is related to capital, either access to capital or directly delivering of capital. So we have loans and grants for community projects, activities, but for businesses, energy projects and other activities that Betty mentioned. We provide access to capital through guaranteed loan programs. It could be, I think we've had some business loans as small as $50,000, and today we're working next couple of days, hopefully, obligating a biorefinery project that is a $250 million guarantee. So a wide variety of activities across lending and lending activities. But we also have a suite of programs that help support business and cooperative development activities. And this is where we're rolling in the bio-based markets program within our agency, knowing that it's not always capital that is needed to help spur economic development. Sometimes it's technical assistance, sometimes it's other supportive activities. So within that suite, again, we have a long history of supporting co-op and cooperative development, and we're now about 9 months, I think, into officially supporting the Bio-Based Markets Bio-Preferred program within RD. So we're looking for kind of your feedback and insights as to activities related to that. But I thought I'd stop there and turn it over to Andy, maybe talk a little bit more about kind of the business development activities and technical assistance activities that we have within our agency.
Okay, thanks, Mark. And before we even start, I want to express my thanks to Karen and USB for the opportunity to have us all come down here and join you all in this conference. And again, appreciate everybody who orchestrated the tours yesterday. Fantastic. Ms. Brand doesn't let me get out of the office very much, so I'm highly appreciative of it. So just adding a little bit on to what Ms. Brand and Mark had said, when you talk about USDA, the 8 mission areas, you've got some of those mission areas that are regulatory in nature, where you're having that, perfect example is a Food Safety Inspection Service. They are regulators. Rural development, pieces there. We're a program delivery agency, and based again on what Ms. Brand said, RD, we kind of view ourselves as a bank. We have a portfolio of investments across the utility, housing, and business sectors of $225 billion. which kind of puts us in the position of being like a small to mid-sized bank. And within that, on the RBS side, we're probably looking at those 16 programs, something in the nature of just over $2 billion will represent this fiscal year. On my side, we do, with Mark and a couple of the other people here with loans and loan guarantees, we're mostly focused on the grant side or some intermediary relending programs. Mark mentioned we did do the co-op. We do a lot of work with co-op development. We're reduced in numbers now. We don't do as much as the national office, but we work through some universities and co-op development centers across the country. And even of note, Mark and I were talking earlier, back in the day, early on when the ethanol industry was just getting started, it was pretty much the co-op business model that brought together a lot of corn producers and other people to get that industry up and going. We do a lot of work with our programs for technical assistance. We work with universities and nonprofits to deliver a pretty wide swath of technical assistance. It can take the form of a business incubator, a business accelerator. We're seeing more interest now in workforce development and training programs. Again, these can go into communities. Again, with a university, a community college, to train a workforce. We did not mention we're rural development. So our programs and our reach must stay in what is defined as rural. And for any of you who are interested, our definition of rural for rural business is cities and towns of 50,000 or less. So that's where we can work, which there's bunch of different nuances to that, but that's just something we take on a case by case. And I think and the last one, really, the Kate and Vernell and the Bio-Preferred program are going to be under the group that I work in. We also administer one program that's very, some of you may have actually been engaged with this program, and it ties in perfect with Bio-Preferred. It's called Value-Added Producer Grants. This is a really interesting program, incredibly popular, really, really cool. It provides either a planning grant or working capital, and this ties us back to ag because it has to be the ag producer of any ag commodity who's looking to, essentially go from being just a commodity supplier to being a business and to capture some of that marketing margin from the farm gate to to retail. So it allows them, for example, if you've got a tomato grower who's got a great idea to do barbecue sauce or ketchup or something like this, we can provide them with a planning grant to look at to either prepare a business plan or conduct a feasibility study looking at the marketing, or in turn provide working capital with them to actually implement it. The program is good where I like it. It's really we're not just throwing out grant money, we're really looking at viable businesses. The program requires a dollar for dollar match. So if we give somebody a $200,000 grant, they have to come in and match that with their own $200,000. Highly successful program. We've done some economic impact analysis on it, and it's pretty much shown that for some of these small businesses, the impact of receiving a value added has led to longer sustainability. The businesses are operating longer than like-sized firms that had not received that support. A lot of it is based on, again, it's just by nature, there's a lot of food. We do a lot of different food products, but there's been a number of what I would call bioproducts. We've done some of the composites with, I saw somebody back there had with the wood. We've done a lot of consumer products of lotions and there's candles. There's a number of different products. It's a good product. Maybe if you don't use it, somebody along your supply chain. That's what we're just hoping today. When you come to USDA, there's a wealth of resources, and we're hoping you walk away today with at least getting a little bit of feel about really what's available through the department.
So we've hopefully not inundated you with too much information right off the bat. I'd like to have you an opportunity to ask questions. There were so many of you that almost everybody in the room said they understood or had been familiar with our BioPreferred program. We are really interested in hearing some of the things that we could do differently, things you'd like to see added, or that sort of thing. So I'll give you an opportunity. I think we have the mic now ready and moving. So does anyone have any questions?
Well, thank you for coming. How is your programs working with like sustainable purchasing within states to get some of these products more into the marketplace?
Yeah, do you want to start? You can start.
Hang on just a second.
Like we said, we're well rehearsed here. So again, this is our activity within the Biobased Markets program is, I think we're still getting up to speed, so to speak. We have a couple of our experts with Kate here in the audience on the market side. But on the procurement program, I think that's our opportunity really to work forward with that side of it. So within the Biobased or the BioPreferred Biobased Markets program under the Farm Bill, there are two caveats to it. You kind of the labeling program, which I think many of you are familiar with, and of course the procurement side of it. The procurement side, I think, is probably where we need to focus a little bit more. I'll have Andy speak maybe to a recent conversation as to working forward with cross agencies. We know that we may have some other opportunities that we really haven't approached yet as far as working across states, state purchasing programs, even across some other agencies and activities. We have sister agencies that finance community projects and other economic development projects, utility projects that could use some of the bio-based products that you're either displaying today, or that that many of you and your counterparts produce. So I think we are interested in looking for opportunities of how to tie kind of what you're doing more to what's available, how to make things more available to either our projects that we're financing or to other state programs and community programs. But Andy, if you want to speak a little bit to the procurement.
Sure. As Mark said, this program hasn't even been with us for a year. And Kate and her counterpart, Vernell Thompson, it was a two-person office that was essentially running this. This is one of the benefits we see by coming to RD. We have a wealth of people. One of our strengths is we have offices in every state in the union. And so the awareness of the program and making some of these connections. But the Farm Bill the 2018 Farm Bill did put in some new requirements for the program. We're actively now trying to engage those. We're in conversation with CEQ and the Office of Management and Budget on how we're going to, capture some of these informations, how we're going to engage with other federal agencies to motivate and get them to, one is even to now is to even capture what some of these purchases are and how we can better, get some more information so we can actually even formulate a plan. We have some people, communications people on staff that will be looking to, again, leverage the opportunities we have now and really try to create the more awareness. Betty alluded earlier to the organic label. We'd really like to see ultimately down the road where the BioPreferred has that same kind of presence in the marketplace as the organic label. I mean, really what we're kind of here now is to really, hear from you. You are more familiar with this program, aware of the issues. This is new to us in some cases. We'd really just like to hear if you've got ideas or suggestions. That's where we're here to come down and try to take back. I'm just going to tell you, I'm a career person. Take advantage of this lady being here. This is a great opportunity. She talks to Secretary Perdue every day, so she can do wonders for you.
So to follow up with your question, do you have suggestions on things that we could do better or things that give it to us?
Well, that's always risky, but everybody needs a carrot to get going a little bit. And one of the things that might spur the private sector to embrace bio-based products a little more might be a bio-based tax credit to stimulate their innovation and buying and so forth, so that it just gets the wheel moving a little quicker. We've seen these worked in the past, and that might be something you might want to consider, or at least research and look into, if a bio-based tax credit would actually stimulate more sustainable products being used in the United States.
Thank you.
And I think you'll get a little bit more information in the next panel as well. Any other questions?
We're not that good.
I know, Mark, you mentioned that, Mark, you or Andy one mentioned when you come to us. Can we explore that a little bit deeper? How does one come to us at USDA Rural Development when you want to drill deeper on maybe some of these activities?
How did they?
Yes. How would a company who's in this room explore this further? How do they approach USDA? And also, can I add on to that question? Some of the companies who've come in the past have felt like the paperwork and the requirements to get involved are quite
Cumbersome.
okay. You said the
Yeah,
word.
and that's the nice word. Yeah. So, okay, we're the federal government. We're going to have. We've got regulation upon regulation. Doing everything. But one of the. I'm glad you brought that up. One of the things the 2018 Farm Bill has required us to do is to implement a more streamlined process for applicants to come into the program and be able to move through that program quicker. That's something I don't have an answer for you today, but that is clearly something we'll be trying to advance within the next year to be working with Kate and others to get that process in there. We're still, again, from my perspective, I'm still kind of learning the program and trying to take an assessment of it. Don't want to do anything really quick and regret it. Really, the door to BioPreferred is through the kind of program website. If any of you are in particular states and you're familiar with your rule, and we can provide all this, I apologize, we really didn't come with a whole lot of information or a lot of different things. We really weren't sure what. We'll do a lot of follow-up with you and through Karen to get you some information. If you're in a state, really we say try to contact. If you're looking to access a program, is contact that state director. We can get you a list of all those names and contact numbers. One of your biggest advocates is even to work through Karen, having somebody in place in DC that we're always happy to work with. It's I've got my business cards here. Anybody wants to take it. This is a great opportunity for us to engage with you face to face. Contact me, telephone, email. I will get back to you.
Turn that off. Add a little bit, because I think maybe part of the blank look on our face is when you come to us, are thinking back through the programs we have and the activities we do. We have different access points, but as Andy alluded to, we have a field office structure. Every state has is served by either local area offices through a state office staff. So on our website, and probably the easiest way to get to our information is just usda.gov and look for RD missionary. You can drill in from there, but we can give you, up more contacts. But our field office structure really is our kind of the gatekeeper for working with communities and community projects. So they're always available to provide access to insights forward. At our national office level, some of the programs are delivered directly through our national office. The Bio-Based Markets, Bio-Preferred program is one of them. Some of our energy programs, refinery programs are also delivered directly through our national office staff. But again, our field office staff is there to provide communication, to provide access. So if nothing else, what I would at least is understand what, the space you're working in, figure out who is your closest and be a primary contact through our agency, and then from there they can make connections, kind of up our programs and program areas.
And just to add on to that, because we're rural development, we have a wide portfolio of programs. We may not actually be able to be what you need. But we're also then, by contacting me, between Mark, myself, and Ms. Brand, we probably know somebody in the department. If the program's available within the department, it's a massive building, a massive program, but, we do actually talk to each other. And so we do know people, if it's on something on foreign ag, or it's something even on the production side or on the research side, we probably know somebody, and we can make that introduction and that connection.
Yeah, I have two questions. One is, in the most recent Farm Bill, there was a provision, and in the implementing instructions on the new executive order, for these bio-based only contracts, federal agencies being required to have some contracts that they issue where the folks who are bidding on them are going to all be bio-based products. So it's not competing with alternatives. It's part of the idea of jump-starting some incentives for purchasing. I was wondering about the status of that. That's my first question, and then I have a second one when we're done with that.
I believe that first status is that's going to be some regulation work that we have to do, get in place beforehand. Again, we can't do anything without regulations. So that's in process. And maybe that's something we can do, is provide more regular updates on where we are with the implementation, because I'm sure if people aren't familiar, it's Section 9002 of the 2018 Farm Bill. If you want to look it up, or we can provide you some of that, where we get the Farm Bills are instructions from Congress on how to implement policy at USDA.
The second question has to do with what the program has referred to in the past as complex products. So the tires that we have sitting here, mattresses, cars. There was an effort that was begun but then put on hold to create categories for listing of complex products. So right now, if you want to buy a mattress from the government, you want to buy tires for government vehicles, those are not on that 139 list of categories. Some complex products are more complex than others. And I think in the past, there was a paralysis of really, how do we deal with the percent components of different products? My recommendation is you might look for some low-hanging fruit of things that are not as complex as others. And you see some of these things in the room, and try to jumpstart some of those.
Kate, can you respond to that one a little more? This is Miss Kate Lewis. She's kind of the face of BioPreferred. She's a little more familiar with this topic than myself.
Thanks, Mike. Hi, good morning, everybody. Kate Lewis with BioPreferred. Sue Ann, thank you for your question. Work to develop a testing method to determine the bio-based content of complex assemblies or complex products has continued to happen over the course of the past 2 or 3 years. And we are looking now at ways to apply a revised testing method for complex products, apply it to a number of categories that we're researching, and hope to publish a regulation or a rule in the near term that will outline how the program can identify, either through preferred federal purchasing or voluntary certification and labeling, these multifaceted, multi-component bio-based assemblies.
Thank you, Kate.
Just to provide a little bit more perspective, it was a 2-step process. First, we had to work with a testing organization to develop or to revise the test method for determining bio-based content of products. The test method as it existed prior to 2016 didn't enable the testing of multi-part bio-based assemblies. That test method was revised in 2016, and work in our program to continue to develop the rule to now apply the testing method to our program categories. That still continues today.
Thank you. Any other questions? I don't see any at this time.
Just real quickly, what are we doing right? Is there something that really has made a difference in your development of your product or enabled you to do something that you haven't been able to do before? Anybody want to share any stories, or we probably will hear about those as we progress through the day, and you might not want to be revealing what your panel discussion is going to be about.
Hi, is this on? This is Dave Osceola from the Defense Department. One thing that I found very valuable several years back was when USDA and the BioPreferred program would identify potential products that we in the military could actually implement, and then we were able to have some successes along those lines. We'll talk a little bit about that later, but yeah, that was helpful for you to push out some opportunities that you saw that we could be doing in the federal government, and then we were able to try to implement those.
So those identifying those, was that done more than just putting them on a list? Was there a special outreach program, and something that was particularly effective?
Yeah, it was a guy named Ron Buckholt. He would just call me constantly and tell me that why wasn't DoD implementing this, and yeah.
Excellent, excellent. You may get a phone call.
Hi, I'm Rob Dant with Sinlon. We're a synthetic turf manufacturer, and yes, we recognize that we're making plastic grass, so it's a little odd industry to be in. But one of the differentiating pieces for us is the soy backings that we have and the BioPreferred product lines. If you've been to Washington, D.C. and seen the National Building Museum, you'll see 26,000 square feet of that product in there. One of the hallmarks for us is just having a product that that continues to tell that sustainable story and do it in a way that represents our country and our farmers, and opportunities like this that really drive true leadership. It doesn't add dollars to our bottom line. Maybe my boss would disagree with that, but we've been doing this for quite some time and just believe it's the right thing to do. So thank you.
Okay, with that, I'd like to thank the panel for doing a great job this morning. And with that, we will take a 15-minute break.